What's up guys, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh video. So today's video is going to be about rebacked cards, which is not a term you hear very often to do with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It's pretty common in Magic the Gathering where they reback collector's edition cards to look like alpha or beta, but historically I've never seen it with Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the past. It's only recently there was a BGS 7.5 first edition LOB Blue Eyes, which was graded by Beckett as a North American English card, when it was actually an Asian English copy, which had been essentially peeled off and then stuck on the back of an authentic North American English card. And I've also seen a few listed raw since then on eBay, sellers attempting to list them as North American, even though they're actually rebacked Asian English cards. So in this video, I'm going to go over, first of all, how to tell the difference, how to cover yourself to make sure that when you're buying something, whether it's raw or graded, it is actually that original North American English version and not a reback. But then also I'm going to go over why this is actually such a concerning thing to me, and why I think we're going to be very likely to see more of this in the future because it is so easy to do with these Asian English cards. Okay, so first up, I'm just going to show those differences between North American English and Asian English holographic cards from Legend of Blue Eyes. Just looking at the front, not the back. Now obviously if we did look at the back of the cards, we'd be able to see that the Asian English one, which is this one here, has the Japanese logo. But for this video, that doesn't apply because obviously if you take the front of this card off and stick it on a North American English card, that's no longer a way to tell the difference. So North American is obviously split, as most of you probably already know, into wavy and glossy. This is a wavy on the left, glossy on the right. I don't think it's too much of a concern that anyone's going to attempt to fake wavy hollows because obviously the texture is just not going to be possible to replicate anyway. But also the darker colors and things like that means that realistically an Asian English card will never look like a wavy card. But glossy I think is more concerning. The colors are a little bit different if you know them really well, but especially if you're just looking at a picture on a computer or something like that and you don't have a lot of experience, you probably won't be able to see the difference like that. But there are a few design features you can look out for. So the first thing, which is present on all North American first edition LOB, for the hollows that is that there's a little foil alignment mark in the bottom left. It's much more visible on glossy, but it is on wavy as well. If you look really closely, just that little white marker, which just goes for a couple of millimeters and then it stops. Whereas the Asian English card, if you look here, doesn't have any kind of mark there at all, because that was removed for later prints, which Asian English is an example of. The hollow placement on glossy cards is also a little bit funny, so if you look really closely, you should be able to see that on most glossy cards, there's a tiny shift one way or the other. Whereas again, Asian English cards, they're printed in Japan. They have pretty much perfect print quality, so there's no kind of foil shift. And even just to do with the image alignment, all North American cards from the early era, especially LOB, even if you're talking about non-hollows and things like that, they have these little kind of borders around the image where the artwork just isn't quite aligned perfectly with the rest of the card's design. You can see it on wavy as well, that little line at the top there and on the left as well. It's not a foil shift or anything like that, it's just the way that the card has been put together is inherently imperfect. Whereas again, the Asian English one is very perfectly designed. There's no kind of issue with how the artwork lines up and how it relates to the rest of the card. And now the font on the cards is pretty similar. The Asian English, I would say it's a little bit different, but again, that is something which is very hard to see the difference. One more thing in terms of how the card looks that's different is Asian English holographic cards often have foil bleed. So I'm not sure how clearly you can see on camera. And again, you may not be able to see this in a listing on eBay because if it's just laying flat like that, then realistically you will not be able to see foil bleed either way. But it's more something when you're looking at the card in person, if you want to verify that it's not an Asian English card, you should make sure that the card doesn't have any kind of foil bleed. Because first edition North American English cards never have foil bleed. First edition Asian English LOB cards pretty much always do all over the card pretty strongly. So yeah, that's most of the ways you can tell the difference. They're pretty small details, but if you pay close attention, you should be able to see things like the way the artwork lines up, even in a picture on an eBay listing, let's say. And the final thing I'll just point out is that the Eye of Anubis is actually a bit different between cards printed in Japan and cards printed in North America. So it's a slightly different shape. The American one is more of a square. The OCG one has those more rounded corners. And the color and the finish are slightly different as well. So again, it probably will be difficult to pick up in pictures, but once you get used to it, that is something to look out for as well as a difference between the prints. So yeah, that's how you tell the difference between them. And with an ultra rare card, you can also look out for the slightly thicker lettering on glossy print cards than on Asian English cards, which have a very thin kind of ultra rare stamp. Alright, and for the next part of the video, I'm going to be giving a demonstration of why this is something to be concerned about, because a lot of you will probably look at this video and think, okay, I understand this can be done, but surely it's pretty hard to peel off the front of a card and then stick it on the back of another one without it being obviously wrong. And for North American English hollows, I would actually agree with that. It's very difficult to peel them off because the card is stuck together in a very robust way. But that is actually very different for cards printed in Japan. So I'm not going to use this trap hole just because it's got some value and it's nice to have it as an example of an Asian English card. I don't have any other holographic cards in Asian English. But I'm going to use this acid trap hole, which is printed around the same time in Japan again, because all of these prismatic video game promos were printed in Japan. This is kind of like a LP, MP kind of copy, pretty played. I just picked it up for $1 on eBay, just for the purposes of being able to use it for this video. Now this card, it looks pretty robust. When you look at it at first, you'd think that it's not going to be that easy to take apart. But the truth with Asian English cards is, or OCG hollows in general, is that the way they're stuck together is very different to North American cards. There's a very thick layer of cardboard, but then the holographic layer on the top pretty much just peels off like a sticker. So we'll see. This might take a little while to get it to properly start coming off, but pretty much you just lift it up and gradually you'll be able to get a hold of it. And from there, you can see the card will literally just peel off like a sticker. So this is why you have to be so concerned with these cards, is that it's very, very easy to take off the front of an OCG hollow without causing any damage to the card at all. Now, maybe you'd have to cause a little bit of damage to one corner, so you probably won't see people trying to reback cards that are going to get PSA 9s or PSA 10s. But in general, this is pretty easy to do without causing damage. So you could easily take a card that was, let's say, light play, and remove it without causing any real damage to that front stock. So here's the back of that card now. Pretty much just a worthless piece of paper. And now we're going to take a regular North American English common. This actually used to be a D-Spell from Starter Deck Kaiba. That was the card I used. And we're going to attempt to put this acid trap hole onto the D-Spell and see how good we can get that to look. Alright, so this part of the video I might kind of speed up or cut it out. I'm not sure exactly how easy this is going to be. We've got our Timmy 101 kit, Kids PVA glue. This was the best thing I could find that'll probably stick it together. And I've also got a old BGS label, which I think is probably the best tool I can use to kind of try and wipe the glue evenly over the card. So yeah, we're going to attempt this now. Depending how this goes, how long it takes, I may just cut this part of the video out, or I may speed it up and edit it together. We'll see. But yeah, let's give this a go now. Alright, so we're done with the rebacking. This acid trap hole now has a completely different back to what it started with. And I've got to say, this is my first time ever trying it, so I definitely made some mistakes. But to be honest, even then, the card looks pretty convincing overall. The texture isn't far off, both on the front and on the back. I made some little mistakes and alignment errors and things like that. But obviously, with practice, you could get to the point where none of that would really go wrong. And this would pretty much look like a perfect reback. So it's definitely something to be concerned about. And it's very difficult to detect if it's done well, because a lot of things which work with Magic the Gathering cards, like, for example, also the light test, where they pass a light through and see how pure the light goes through the card. That doesn't work with this either, because it's a thick holographic card, and so the light barely passes through regardless of whether it's being rebacked or not. So yeah, this is really something to watch out for. That's all I can say. I do think this would slip past both PSA and BGS the majority of times at the moment. Not only with a card like this, but also with an Asian English card that was rebacked to look like North American. Because even though with LOB especially, there are some clear ways to tell, as I pointed out earlier in this video, it's not something that Yu-Gi-Oh has a history of rebacking in general. So it's not something that graders are going to really be looking out for. And until they've been educated in exactly how to tell the differences, I would expect that most graders, even if maybe they think that something is a bit funny with the card they're looking at, they're probably going to grade it as authentic, and possibly even give it a high grade if the card is in good condition as well. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something from it. I hope you now know how to tell the difference between an authentic first edition LOB holo and a rebacked Asian English one. If you have any other questions or things like that, feel free to put them down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get back to everyone and answer questions and things like that. And yeah, until next time, this is Schlost signing out, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.